Have you ever walked into a place where the air felt heavy before anyone even spoke? Where frustration seemed to hang like a cloud over everyone? That's exactly how this story begins, inside the First Pacific Bank on Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles, one late, restless afternoon. The doors slide open to reveal chaos. Long lines of impatient customers snake from the counters all the way to the glass entrance. People shift from foot to foot, checking their watches, muttering under their breath about how long it's taking. The fluorescent lights hum above them, the sound blending with the low buzz of frustration. You can almost feel the impatience, the exhaustion, the sense that nobody wants to be there, but everyone needs to be. Behind the counter, a young woman named Brittany Wallace types away at her computer. Her movements are mechanical, her smile forced. She's been here all day, and the fatigue shows in her eyes. Her hair is neatly tied back, but a few loose strands tell the truth. She's tired, overworked, and just barely holding on to her professional mask. Every beep of her computer and every impatient sigh from the customers feels like one more drop of stress piling onto her shoulders. The bank's atmosphere feels sterile, yet tense, a place built for order but teetering on the edge of irritation. The kind of place where small frustrations can turn into big moments, where ordinary encounters can reveal something extraordinary. Little does anyone in that room know, today will be far from ordinary. Before the doors close again, something unexpected will happen inside this very bank. Something that will remind everyone watching that even in the most routine places, humanity can still surprise us. And as the hum of frustration continues, and the clock ticks toward closing time, the story is just about to begin. If you're ready to see how one small act of courage and one unexpected hero can change everything, stay tuned. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more inspiring stories, and hit the bell so you never miss the moments that remind us what compassion truly looks like. Linda Carter, a 73-year-old retired schoolteacher, slowly steps through the automatic doors of the First Pacific Bank, clutching a small envelope in her hands. She's lived a life built on independence, integrity, and perseverance. Values she carried with pride into every classroom she taught. Today, however, she feels a rare flutter of anxiety. The reason? Unexpected fees have appeared in her bank account, small in amount but large in impact on her fixed pension. Every dollar matters, and she has come seeking clarity. Approaching the counter, Linda straightens her back and takes a deep, steadying breath. "Good afternoon," she begins politely, her voice soft yet firm. "I believe there's been a mistake in my account. I've been charged fees I wasn't informed about." Her hands tremble slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of insisting on fairness in a world that often overlooks the elderly. On the other side of the counter, Brittany Wallace barely glances up from her keyboard. Her eyes flicker with impatience. "Those are standard account maintenance fees, ma'am," she replies flatly, her tone dismissive, almost rehearsed. Linda hesitates, extending the envelope with receipts and statements, her hope clinging to the belief that someone will listen. "I've had this account for years, and I've never seen these charges before," she explains, her voice tinged with quiet frustration. Brittany sighs loudly, dragging her gaze reluctantly toward Linda. Her irritation is palpable as she flips through the papers, half-heartedly scanning them before shoving the envelope back across the counter. "It's in the fine print of your agreement," she says, her eyes rolling. "If you didn't read it, that's not our fault." A few people in line chuckle quietly, reinforcing the humiliation. Linda feels her cheeks burn, not with anger, but with the sharp sting of being dismissed for simply asking a question. But despite the embarrassment, Linda does not falter. She knows she deserves respect and honesty, values she upheld her entire life. The tension at the counter is palpable, a silent battlefield of authority versus dignity. This encounter, seemingly ordinary, is about to take an extraordinary turn, one that will challenge not just the rules of the bank, but the hearts of everyone present. If you want to see how courage and integrity can confront indifference, stay tuned and make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel and ring the bell for more stories that remind us why standing up for what's right matters now more than ever. As Linda stands at the counter, trying to make sense of the charges, Brittany Wallace's patience, or what little remained, begins to fray. Her fingers hover over the keyboard, tapping impatiently as she sighs dramatically, loud enough for those in line to hear. "If you want to avoid fees, you need to keep more money in your account." "That's how banks work, ma'am," she says, her tone dripping with condescension. The words hit Linda like a cold gust of wind. She had come seeking understanding, not ridicule, yet here she is, being publicly belittled in front of a room full of strangers. Her cheeks flush with embarrassment, and a lump forms in her throat. The people in line, who moments ago had been loudly complaining about their own weight, suddenly turn away, unwilling to meet her eyes. Silence surrounds her like a heavy blanket, punctuated only by the occasional chuckle from someone who finds amusement in her humiliation. Linda swallows hard, struggling to keep her voice steady. "I just want to understand what happened," she says quietly, holding on to her dignity even as the situation threatens to crush it. She's not asking for special treatment or charity, just fairness. Yet every word seems to bounce off Brittany like a wall, leaving Linda feeling smaller with each passing second. The camera would linger on this moment. An elderly woman, polite and calm, standing in a place where she should feel safe, facing unnecessary ridicule. The tension is tangible, the emotional weight nearly suffocating. This is more than a banking error. It's a raw display of human indifference and the courage it takes to confront it. But just as hope seems to be slipping away, someone else enters the scene. Someone whose presence will shift the entire room. Someone who will remind everyone watching that standing up for respect and dignity is never too late. If you're ready to see the moment when courage collides with injustice, stick with us and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss this unforgettable story. Just as the tension reaches its peak, the bank doors slide open again, and in walks Carl Jensen, the branch manager. At first glance, he seems like any typical manager, sharply dressed, composed, and carrying an air of authority. But Carl's approach is anything but empathetic. He has been observing the exchange between Linda and Brittany from a distance, arms crossed, silently weighing whether intervening is even worth his time. Stepping up to the counter, Carl clears his throat and addresses Linda with a polite yet cold smile. "Is there a problem here, ma'am?" His tone suggests he doesn't actually expect an answer. Brittany immediately straightens, eager to show loyalty, and quickly responds, "No, sir, just a customer who doesn't understand our policies." Her words carry the weight of bureaucratic detachment, but also a hint of fear, knowing that Carl's approval is paramount. Carl turns his gaze to Linda, his smile polite but empty, eyes barely meeting hers. "Ma'am, we have standard fees in place. If you can't maintain the minimum balance, there's nothing we can do." His words land like a hammer, dismissive and final. Linda squares her shoulders, summoning every ounce of courage left. "I've always kept my account in good standing," she insists, her voice firm but calm. "These fees just started appearing. All I'm asking is for someone to review them." Instead of helping, Carl lets out a short, amused chuckle, leaning slightly over the counter so his words carry across the entire room. "What's in the system is in the system, ma'am. We don't review automated charges." The final blow comes when he adds, loud enough for everyone to hear, "If you can't afford the fees, maybe this bank isn't the right place for you." A sharp silence fills the lobby. Linda feels the weight of his words pressing down, a mix of shock, humiliation, and helplessness. The scene is set. An elderly woman, treated unfairly, a teller indifferent to her plight, a manager who sees her as insignificant. The tension is almost unbearable, and for a moment, it seems like nothing can change. But then, a deep, steady voice cuts through the oppressive silence, challenging everything in the room, and changing the course of the story forever. If you're ready to see who steps in to confront injustice and stand up for dignity, make sure to stick around and hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this is where the story truly takes a turn. Just as the silence in the bank feels almost suffocating, a deep, commanding voice cuts through the tension. Why are you talking to her like that? Heads snap toward the entrance, and all eyes fall on a man standing tall, wearing a black t-shirt, jeans, and a baseball cap. At first glance, he could be any ordinary customer, but there's an unmistakable presence about him, a calm authority that demands attention. Carl Jensen, clearly irritated, turns toward the newcomer. "Who are you to question how we handle our customers?" he demands, his voice tight with defensiveness. The man takes a few steps forward, slowly removing his cap. Gasps ripple through the bank. It's Vin Diesel, the Fast and Furious star, known for playing some of the toughest and most fearless characters on screen, now standing quietly but powerfully in front of a room full of people. Vin's gaze locks on Carl, steady and unwavering. "It doesn't matter who I am," he says calmly. "What matters is why you're treating this woman like this." The entire bank falls silent, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Brittany Wallace, who moments ago had been brimming with confidence, now fidgets nervously, unsure of how to respond. Customers who had ignored Linda's struggle before now watch intently, their curiosity and concern piqued. Carl tries to regain control, stammering, "Sir, this is none of your business. We have policies in place, and this lady doesn't meet the requirements." But Vin's presence is undeniable. He tilts his head slightly, a knowing smile forming on his face, and asks in a measured voice, "Policies or an excuse to humiliate someone who's just asking for fairness?" The words carry weight, resonating not just with Linda, but with every person watching. Vin turns to Linda, his voice softer now, filled with genuine concern. "Ma'am, what exactly is the problem? Can you show me what's going on?" For the first time that day, Linda feels a flicker of hope. She hands him the envelope, trusting that this unexpected ally will see the truth. Vin carefully scans the documents, his expression unreadable, before looking back at Carl. "This is a mistake," he states plainly, "and you're going to fix it." The room feels electrified. What began as a mundane, humiliating experience is transforming into something extraordinary. The presence of a single person willing to stand up to injustice shifts the balance entirely. If you want to see how courage and accountability unfold in real time, keep watching, and don't forget to like this video. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the moment justice is served. Vin Diesel holds the envelope carefully, scanning the documents inside with deliberate attention. The tension in the bank is palpable. Every customer, every employee, every person in line is now watching, holding their breath. Vin's expression remains calm, but his words carry undeniable authority. "These charges shouldn't be here," he declares, looking directly at Carl Jensen. "You're going to fix this." Carl opens his mouth to respond, but Vin raises a hand, stopping him before he can deflect. His voice is steady, unwavering. "If it's a mistake, you fix it. If it's not, it's going to be a much bigger problem for you." The room is silent except for the faint hum of computers and the occasional shuffle of feet as customers lean in, drawn by the unfolding confrontation. Brittany Wallace stands frozen, unsure of how to act, her earlier confidence completely gone. Vin turns back to Linda, softer now, genuine concern in his eyes. "Ma'am, you said these fees weren't here before?" Linda nods, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've had this account for over 30 years. They just appeared 2 months ago." Vin tilts his head thoughtfully, then locks eyes with Carl. 2 months ago? So tell me, why did the maintenance fees suddenly triple? Carl's face pales, his carefully constructed facade beginning to crumble. He tries to explain, citing corporate policy and system accuracy. But Vin isn't swayed. He leans slightly over the counter, speaking clearly and firmly. "Do you review these charges? Do you check if they're correct? Or do you just assume the system is always right?" Carl hesitates, trapped by the undeniable truth that he has no legitimate defense. Vin scans the room, holding up Linda's papers like evidence in a trial. He points out that a woman who has banked faithfully for decades was suddenly hit with unexplained fees, and then publicly humiliated when she asked for clarity. His voice is calm but resolute, echoing through the bank. "This isn't about policy, Carl. This is about respect." The customers begin to stir, murmuring in agreement, their eyes fixed on the exchange. Brittany glances nervously at Carl, realizing there's no easy way out. Carl's confidence is gone. He's no longer in control. Every gaze in the room is on him, witnessing the truth of his actions laid bare. If you're ready to see how one man's courage can force accountability and justice, stay with us and don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications, because this is the moment the tide begins to turn. Vin Diesel's presence shifts the energy in the bank. He turns to the customers, his voice carrying over the hum of computers and low murmurs. How many of you have had unexpected fees show up on your accounts in the last few months? He asks, holding up Linda's papers like undeniable evidence. At first silence, but then tentative hands begin to rise. A middle-aged man in a work uniform, a young mother holding a baby, an elderly couple near the back. One by one, people admit they've faced the same issue. Vin scans the room slowly, letting the realization settle in. So it's not just her, he says softly, almost to himself, but loud enough for Carl to hear. He turns back to Carl, his tone sharp now. You might want to think carefully about your next words. Carl swallows hard, realizing the scope of what's happening. If he continues to dismiss Linda, he risks dismissing dozens of other customers in the room. If he admits fault, his authority and career could be in jeopardy. Vin doesn't give him a moment to strategize. He motions toward the computer behind the counter. Since you're so sure the system is accurate, go ahead. Pull up her account. Let's see those fees. Carl hesitates, glancing at Brittany. His irritation flares as he tries to regain control. But Brittany's hands tremble as she accesses the account, unable to meet Carl's eyes. The screen lights up with numbers, and Vin leans in, carefully examining the account. A slow smile spreads across his face. Well, look at that, he says, tapping the screen. The fees started 2 months ago, right after a change in bank policy. And it's not just her account. He looks at the customers, scanning their faces. How many of you have been banking here for more than 5 years? Several hands shoot up. And how many of you started seeing new charges around the same time? More hands go up. The room falls silent except for the faint shuffling of feet and nervous coughs from the employees. Vin turns back to Carl, his voice steady and deliberate. Do you see where I'm going with this? Carl's face is ashen now. He stammers, trying to defend the indefensible. We don't target specific people. Vin cuts him off with a shake of his head. Funny, because based on what I'm seeing, the majority of these new fees are hitting elderly customers. People less likely to challenge them, people who might not have the energy to fight back. That's not policy, Carl. That's a scam. The room is tense. Every eye is on Carl Jensen, the man who just moments ago wielded authority like a shield. Now he stands exposed, cornered by evidence, public opinion, and the unwavering presence of Vin Diesel. If you want to see how this confrontation resolves, and justice is finally served, keep watching, and make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the powerful conclusion of this unforgettable story. Vin Diesel takes a step closer, his voice lowering just enough to carry authority without shouting. I don't like bullies, Carl, and I really don't like people who take advantage of the ones who deserve the most respect. He gestures toward Linda, standing quietly but resolutely at the counter. This woman dedicated her life to teaching, shaping young minds, and you're telling me she doesn't deserve basic decency? Carl's sweat beads on his forehead and he shifts nervously, realizing the weight of the room is now on him. The customers, who had previously remained passive, are alert and watch every word. Brittany, the teller, fidgets beside Carl, unable to offer solutions. The situation has spiraled beyond her control, and in the back of the room, a young man quietly raises his phone, recording every moment, every humiliation Carl inflicted, every injustice being corrected. Vin continues, calm yet unwavering. Let's look at the facts. A woman who's been banking here for decades suddenly gets hit with unexplained fees. When she asks for clarification, she's mocked and humiliated. And now you're telling me it's just policy? Carl fumbles for words, stammering that the bank follows guidelines and doesn't make exceptions. Vin shakes his head slowly. That's where you're wrong. You do make exceptions, just not for people like Linda. The tension is palpable. Vin scans the room and addresses the customers. How many of you have had unexpected fees show up recently? Hesitant hands rise. One by one, customers reveal they've been hit with the same fees, confirming a pattern of targeting those less likely to fight back. Carl's confidence crumbles further. The very system he relied on to justify his actions is being exposed in front of everyone. Vin motions to the computer behind the counter. Since you trust the system so much, go ahead. Pull up her account and show us those charges. Brittany, trembling, obeys. The screen lights up, displaying the fees that have caused so much distress. Vin leans in, scanning the data with a measured calm. 2 months ago, fees started increasing right after a policy change. And it's not just her account. He looks at the watching customers. Do you see now? This isn't about a mistake. It's about taking advantage of people who can't easily fight back. The atmosphere in the bank shifts. Nervous whispers turn into quiet agreement. Carl Jensen, the once confident manager, is cornered, exposed, and forced to face accountability. The balance of power has completely flipped. If you want to see how Carl is finally held responsible and justice is served for Linda and countless others, keep watching and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the climax of this incredible story. Vin Diesel's eyes sweep across the room, taking in every witness, every customer, and every employee who has been part of this ordeal. He raises Linda's papers slightly, like evidence in a courtroom. Let's be clear, Carl, he says, voice steady and deliberate. This isn't just about one woman. How many of you here have seen similar unexpected fees? Hands up if this has happened to you. At first the room is quiet, then a few tentative hands rise. A middle-aged man, a young woman holding a baby, an elderly couple near the back. One by one, more customers admit they've been hit by the same fees. Murmurs ripple through the room as people realize they are not alone. Vin nods slowly, letting the realization sink in, before turning back to Carl. So it's not just her. Do you see where I'm going with this? Carl swallows hard, realizing that the situation has escalated far beyond his control. If he continues to defend himself, he risks dismissing dozens of customers who are now witnesses. If he admits fault, his career is on the line. The weight of accountability presses down on him, and for the first time, Carl looks genuinely nervous. Vin doesn't let him off the hook. He gestures toward the computer behind the counter. Since you trust the system so much, go ahead. Pull up her account and show everyone these fees. Brittany hesitates but follows orders, her hands trembling as she navigates the bank's software. The numbers appear on the screen, clear and undeniable. Vin leans in, scanning the account with meticulous attention. Well, look at this. The fees started 2 months ago, right after a policy change. And it's not just her account. It's happening to multiple customers, mostly elderly, less likely to challenge it. He looks directly at Carl, eyes sharp. This isn't policy, Carl. This is targeting. This is unfair. This is a scam. The room goes silent except for the faint hum of computers and the occasional shuffle of feet. Carl Jensen's face is pale. The power he once wielded so confidently has evaporated. The customers, emboldened by the truth, now watch as justice begins to take shape. If you're ready to see how Carl is finally forced to make amends and justice is restored, stay tuned and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the powerful conclusion of this unforgettable story. Vin Diesel takes a deliberate step closer to Carl, his posture calm but commanding. I don't like bullies, Carl, he says, his voice carrying through the silent bank, and I really don't like people who take advantage of those who deserve respect. He gestures toward Linda, whose hands clutch the envelope tightly, standing with quiet dignity despite the ordeal she's endured. This woman dedicated her life to teaching, to shaping minds, and you're telling me she doesn't deserve basic decency? Carl's face turns red, sweat forming on his brow. He shifts uncomfortably, aware that the room is now entirely against him. Customers, who had been passive just moments ago, are leaning in, watching every word, every reaction. Brittany Wallace, the teller who had earlier dismissed Linda, fidgets nervously, realizing she can't fix what's unfolding. In the back, a young man quietly raises his phone, capturing every moment. The humiliation, the confrontation, and now the beginning of justice. Vin continues, his tone calm yet unyielding. Let's look at the facts. A woman who's banked here for decades suddenly faces unexplained fees. When she asks for clarification, she's mocked, belittled, and publicly humiliated. And now you're telling me it's just policy? Carl tries to respond, stammering that they follow guidelines and don't make exceptions. Vin shakes his head slowly. That's where you're wrong. You do make exceptions, just not for people like Linda. He addresses the watching customers, raising his voice slightly to carry over the murmurs. How many of you have seen unexpected fees appear on your accounts recently? Hesitant hands rise. A few, then several more. It becomes clear this isn't an isolated incident. It's a pattern of targeting vulnerable customers. Carl's composure crumbles. The facade of authority he relied on is gone. Vin gestures toward the computer. Since you trust the system so much, go ahead. Pull up her account and show us those charges. Brittany, shaking, complies. The screen displays the account, revealing fees that have caused months of undue stress. Vin leans in, scanning the data, his expression calm but firm. 2 months ago, fees started increasing after a policy change. And it's not just her account. You see now, Carl? This is about taking advantage of those who can't easily fight back. The atmosphere in the bank shifts. Whispers of agreement ripple through the customers. Carl Jensen, the once confident manager, stands exposed, cornered, and accountable. The balance of power has completely shifted. If you want to see how Carl is finally forced to correct his wrongdoing and how justice is restored, stay tuned and don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the dramatic resolution of this story. Vin Diesel's gaze sweeps across the bank, taking in every witness. The customers, the employees, and especially Linda, who stands quietly, her composure steady despite the ordeal. He lifts Linda's papers, holding them like evidence in a courtroom. Let's be clear, Carl, he says, his voice calm but commanding. This isn't just about one woman. How many of you have experienced unexpected fees recently? At first, silence hangs in the air, thick and tense. Then, tentative hands rise. A middle-aged man in work clothes, a young mother holding her baby, an elderly couple near the back. One by one, people admit they've faced the same fees. Murmurs ripple through the room as the realization sinks in. This problem is widespread. Vin nods slowly, letting the weight of the evidence settle in the room, then turns back to Carl. So it's not just her. Do you see where I'm going with this? Carl swallows hard, panic beginning to creep in. Defend his actions and risk admitting the bank is harming dozens of customers, or concede and face career-threatening consequences. He's trapped. Vin doesn't allow him a moment to strategize. He points toward the computer. Since you trust the system so much, go ahead. Pull up her account and show everyone these fees. Brittany, shaking, complies. The account information appears on the screen, every fee clearly documented. Vin leans in, scanning the numbers with measured attention. 2 months ago, fees started increasing right after a policy change. And it's not just her account. It's primarily hitting elderly customers, those less likely to challenge it. He looks at Carl directly. This isn't policy, Carl. This is targeting. This is unethical. This is a scam. The bank falls silent except for the faint hum of computers and the shuffle of nervous feet. Customers glance at one another, emboldened by the truth. Carl Jensen, once confident and commanding, now stands cornered, exposed before everyone in the room. The tide has turned, and the balance of power has completely shifted. If you want to see how Carl is forced to take accountability and justice is finally served for Linda and countless others, keep watching and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the resolution of this unforgettable story. With the evidence laid bare and the customers witnessing the truth, Carl Jensen finally slumps, defeated. Brittany begins reversing the unfair fees, her fingers flying over the keyboard, while murmurs of approval ripple through the room. The atmosphere shifts from tension to quiet satisfaction. Justice is unfolding right before everyone's eyes. Vin Diesel turns to Linda, offering a small, reassuring nod. She finally allows herself to exhale, a mixture of relief and disbelief washing over her. For the first time that afternoon, she feels seen, valued, and respected. The crowd of customers, once indifferent, now looks on with admiration, realizing the power of standing up against unfairness. Carl issues a reluctant apology to Linda, his voice strained, acknowledging the unacceptable treatment she endured. Outside the bank, the young man filming smiles knowingly. The video is already spreading online. Within hours, it goes viral, sparking outrage and prompting the bank's headquarters to launch an internal review. Corporate quickly removes Carl from his position, refunds all affected customers, and reassesses branch policies. Brittany, though initially complicit, cooperates and retains her job, having testified against Carl. Days later, Linda receives a personal note from Vin Diesel, reminding her that she already possessed the strength to stand up for herself, with a signed poster and an invitation to his movie premiere tucked inside. Sitting at her kitchen table, sipping tea, she reflects on the day and feels a deep sense of empowerment. The world may not be perfect, but she has learned an invaluable lesson. When you fight for what's right, sometimes the right people show up to fight alongside you. If this story inspired you and reminded you of the importance of standing up for justice, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more powerful stories, and hit the notification bell. Because moments like these deserve to be seen, shared, and remembered.